All right, so we're diving into some pretty murky waters today, folks, with this whole Jannik Sinner situation. Sinner, the tennis star, world number one.
Yeah.
Well, he's found himself smack dab in the middle of a doping scandal, and we're going to unpack it all based on this Sky Sports article we've got here.
Yeah, it's a wild one for sure. So we're talking about Sinner testing positive for klossball, right? That's a big no-no, a banned steroid. And get this, not just once, but twice back in March.
Twice? Seriously? I mean, you'd think that'd be it. Case closed.
You'd think, wouldn't you? But hold on, because it gets a bit more complicated. The International Tennis Integrity Agency, they're the ones who handle these things, the ITIA, cleared him a few months later. Seems like they bought his explanation. His physio, the guy treating a cut, used a spray with klossball in it. And, here's the kicker, gave him massages and other therapy after using it.
Okay, so was it a genuine oops or something more, strategic? And this is where the World Anti-Doping Agency steps in, right? WADA.
Bingo! WADA was not having it, not one bit. They decided to appeal the IDAJ's decision, taking it up the ladder to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, the CAS. Now, here's the thing. It's not unheard of for WADA to appeal these decisions, but you've got to consider Sinner's at the top of his game, just won the U.S. Open. Adds a whole other level of scrutiny, wouldn't you say?
No kidding. So where does this leave Sinner? Especially with the Australian Open coming up in January. He's the defending champ, right?
Right, and as it stands, the CAS hasn't nailed down a hearing date yet. So, yeah, a whole lot of uncertainty swirling around. Waiting game now, and that's got to be tough on the guy.
And then, to add fuel to the fire, another tennis legend wades into the conversation, Novak Djokovic.
Yeah, Djokovic, he's not one to mince words, is he? 24 Grand Slam titles under his belt, and he comes out swinging in the Sky Sports piece, calls the whole Sinner situation, with the doping appeal and all, not helping tennis at all. And he doesn't stop there. He takes aim at the system itself, saying there are just way too many inconsistencies, way too many governing bodies involved.
And he's got a point, doesn't he? I mean, think about it. How many doping scandals have we seen in tennis over the years? Seems like there's always some controversy brewing.
There really is. And it's not just tennis, right?
Yeah.
It's all pro sports, really. Remember that case, I think it was a few years back, with that swimmer tested positive for something that was in, like, an over-the-counter cream. Similar kind of deal, unintentional, but the consequences were completely different. And that's what Djokovic is getting at, I think, this lack of a clear, consistent standard.
Right. It's like one rule for some and another for others. So when someone like Djokovic, with his clout, speaks up, people listen, right? But do you think it'll actually change anything?
Well, who knows? But it definitely turns up the heat on these governing bodies, right? When you've got someone like Djokovic, who's been at the very top, raising concerns about fairness and transparency, they have to at least pay attention.
For sure. And, he also mentioned how tough this whole thing must be for Sinner and his family, which, put yourself in their shoes. 1 minute you're on top of the world, the next your entire career's in limbo.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, Sinner has maintained his innocence this whole time. In the Sky Sports article, he even says he was surprised when WADA decided to appeal. He seems pretty confident that the final decision will clear his name, though he admits it's not comfortable, this whole situation. Says he's trying to just focus on his game.
Which is incredible if you think about it. I mean, the potential consequences here are huge. If the CAS sides with the WADA, he could be stripped of his titles, even the U.S. Open.
Absolutely. And don't forget, the Australian Open is just around the corner. He could be stripped of that title, too. This appeal could have major implications for his career, both now and in the future.
So what happens now? Like, what's Sinner facing with this whole CAS thing? What's the process even like?
Well, the CAS, they don't mess around. They're going to go through everything the ITA looked at with a fine-tooth comb, all the evidence, the arguments, the whole 9 yards. They could call for a whole new hearing even. Bring both sides back in, have them plead their cases all over again.
So not exactly a quick resolution then, huh?
Probably not. These things can drag on, unfortunately. Good news for Sinner is, under the current rules, he can keep playing while this is all going on.
So he's still got a chance to defend those titles, keep his ranking up. Must be strange, though, right? Competing at that level with this hanging over your head. Talk about pressure.
No doubt about it. Adds a whole other layer of complexity, for sure. But, this whole situation, it really raises some bigger questions about the whole anti-doping system, doesn't it? Where's the line between, strict liability, the athlete's responsible no matter what, and, taking individual circumstances into account?
Right, because you want a level playing field, obviously. But you also don't want to punish someone for a genuine mistake.
Yeah.
Especially if there's no intention to cheat.
Exactly. And that's where it gets really tricky. No easy answers. Sinner's case, it really shines a light on just how complex this all is, all these gray areas. How
Yeah.
do you balance it all out? It'll be really interesting to see how the CAS rules on this one, what kind of precedent it sets.
It really makes you think, makes you wonder, what would you do if you were in Sitter's shoes? And what does this whole thing say about the challenges of keeping things fair, keeping things honest in pro sports, especially when the stakes are this high? It's a conversation that's not going away anytime soon, and we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on it. Thanks for diving in with us today, folks. This is one for the history books, that's for sure.